Hey YouTube, Estacado 5000 here. What's up? Here's another retro deck profile. It's been a while. It's called Flower Power. So here we go. We got one Dark Arm Dragon. Then you got one Titanial, Princess of Camellias. What this card does is when your opponent activates a card like that targets one of your monsters, you contribute one monster on your field to negate the activation of that card and destroy it. So it's pretty cool. It can also be summoned through Lone Fire Blossom's effect, obviously. Then you got the main heart of the entire build, the Phoenixian Cluster Amaryllis. It's hard to pronounce. What this card does basically, every time it attacks, it inflicts 800 points of damage to your opponent's life points, and it gets destroyed at the end phase. Then, when this is in your graveyard, you can remove one plant-type monster from your graveyard to special summon this monster back onto the field in defense position during the end phase. The only drawback is it cannot be special summoned except through its own effect. So basically, it's a very good monster because not only does burn damage to your opponent's life points, like if you get enough plant-type monsters in your graveyard, you can keep bringing it back over and over again. But if this gets destroyed by any means, your opponent loses 800 life points. So like it's insane. Plus you got like another monster like Queen of Thorns and Dark Strike Fighter, which we'll get to in a little bit. So it's pretty cool. Then you got Free Evil Thorn. It's almost similar to Lone Fire Blossom in some ways. Its first effect is you contribute this monster to inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent's life points. Then you can special summon 2 more copies of this monster onto the field. But the only drawback is you cannot attribute these two to use the 300 burn damage on the turn that you summon these monsters. So it's still pretty cool. Plus it serves a purpose for this monster to revive itself over and over again during the end phase. Then you got Free Lone Fire Blossom. You can basically attribute this to summon these two. Then when you get the third one out, you contribute that to either get this guy out or you get Titanial. So you got a lot of options. And it's a plant-type monster, so it adds more fuel to Cluster Amaryllis. Then you got this monster here. This monster's only use is you summon it, and you can send this card to the graveyard from the field to special summon Amaryllis from your hand. So basically, you have this in your hand, or you can summon this through Lone Fire Blossom's effect. If you have the Cluster Amaryllis in your hand already, then you can get it onto the field. It's pretty awesome. Then you got one Dandelion. When this is sent to the graveyard by any means, you automatically get 2 tokens onto the field. So basically, you can use that for synchro material and stuff like that. It's pretty awesome. Then you got Free Mystic Tomato. Then you got one Gale the Whirlwind and one Plague Bearer Zombie. Then you got one Sangan, which you can get the Phoenixian Seed or like Lone Fire Blossom from your deck to your hand a lot quicker. Then you got one Card Trooper, a really good way to mill some of your plant-type monsters and get them into the graveyard. Then you got the spell cards. You got 2 Mark of the Rose. What this card does is you remove one plant-type monster from your graveyard and equip this to one of your opponent's monsters, take control of it, and during your end phase, they get it back, but then during your standby phase, you get it back again. So it's a really good way to steal one of your opponent's monsters. But they can easily get rid of it either by tributing it or using it for synchro material. So that's the only drawback. But if you don't have any of that, or they don't have like Mystical Space Typhoon, Giant Trunade, or Heavy Storm, or something to get rid of this, it's like a back and forth battle. So it's pretty funny. Then you got 2 Foolish Burial. It's good to get like Dandelion into the graveyard or Plague Bearer Zombie into the graveyard, obviously. Then you got 1 Brain Control, Heavy Storm, Mystical Space Typhoon, Monster Reborn, and Smashing Ground. Now for the trap cards, you got 1 Free Solemn Judgment. Then you got Free Skill Drain. Then you got 2 Banlist Trap Hole. Then you got 1 Mirror Force, 1 Torrential Tribute, and 1 Rikeki Break. Now the thing with Skill Drain is Cluster Amaryllis' 800 point damage effect only works when it gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard. The effect activates within the graveyard. So Cluster Amaryllis' effect can get under that through Skill Drain's effect. The only effect it can't get it under was if it attacks and it gets destroyed after it attacks. So it gets to stay on the field a little longer, obviously. So it's pretty cool. Then you got for the Synchro Monsters, you got 2 Magical Android. Then you got 1 Gaia Knight, Force to Earth, 1 Goyle Guardian, and then 1 Queen of Thorns. Queen of Thorns is pretty nasty. It's another good method to drain your opponent's life points a lot quicker. So this is how it works. Each time a player summons a non-plant type monster, they have to pay 1,000 life points. So if your opponent is like down to his like last remaining life points, this is going to put him in a very critical junction. Because if they can't summon a plant type monster, your opponent's going to lose, obviously. So it's really cool. Then you got 2 Dark Strike Fighter. This is really good to finish your opponent off as well. Like, basically, if your opponent has less than, like, 1,400 life points left, you could simply get rid of this. It's game over. So it's pretty cool. Then you got 2 Black Rose Dragon. This destroys every card in the field when it's synchro summoned. So this is a good way to clear the board and then set up your combo. It's really cool. You got a lot of options. Then you got Blackwing Armor Master because you have Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, obviously. Then you got 2 Stardust Dragon, 1 Far Rule Archfiend, 1 Red Dragon Archfiend, and 1 Colossal Fighter. So basically, like I said, the best cards in this build is Dark Strike Fighter. Hold on a sec, just give me a sec. The second card is Queen of Thorns. And then you got the Cluster Amaryllis. So these are the 3 best cards in the build, in my opinion. Like, you get the combo right, you like attack with this, gets destroyed. Then if you have a lot of plant type monsters in your graveyard, you bring this back during the end phase in defense position, and then your opponent destroys it, they lose 800 life points every time. So it's insane. It's crazy. And then you got Queen of Thorns, which basically cripples your opponent's summoning. It kind of hurts you a little bit too, but then again, most of your monsters in this build are plant type, so it won't really hurt you quite a bit, but it will hurt your opponent a little bit. This card's effect is just pure nasty, because you could just, like, if your opponent has less, like I said, your opponent has less than 1,400 life points, you could simply tribute this, or tribute this to weaken them enough to, like for example, do a kamikaze attack with this card against a Stardust Dragon. This dies, and if they have less than 800 life points, it's game over. So there's a lot of combos you can pull off with this build. So that's the build. Hope you all enjoyed. More videos coming soon. Later, guys.